saying that loud. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode. Here I go again on my own, going down the only road I've ever known. Like it's something I was meant to be alone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 236. 236 of these motherfuckers. And the quality, debatable, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, podcast, always improving, always trying to get 1% better. Okay, that's all you can do, baby. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Keep going through it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode. All right? If you haven't been here before, welcome. It's the same for you. No one's special. Old verbiage. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome to 7 Minutes in Evan, where we get down to the most important things going on in this world, and that's pop culture. And sometimes we venture off into the realm of philosophy. You know, it's crazy that if you really think about it, thinking about philosophy, we still quote dudes from way far back. They had peanut brains compared to what we should have, but their philosophies on life are still like some of the most profound things that people can rely on in wisdom. And it makes you wonder how evolved we really are. Are we as evolved as we like to think, or do we just have cool shit because each generation benefits from the previous generation's innovation? Okay, because Marcus Aurelius will say some shit, and I'm like, those are bars, almost prehistoric bars, almost Jurassic bars. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, life was simple back then. You just wrap yourself in a bed sheet and just walk around talking about life. There's nothing else really to do, you know? Sometimes I wonder that, was that the good old days? Back before there was all this shit, you know, all this social media, all this connection. Is it a good thing? Is it a good thing for our lives? Your boy always just debates, just cutting the plug, not even pulling the plug. I'm so dramatic, I will cut that shit, okay, like an umbilical cord, and just sever this baby off from the teat. I know that's not how umbilical cords work, okay? I just need you to know that. But I always think about it, because think about how profound some of those thoughts were. Like where you would just ponder and you would think about life. You weren't thinking about titties back then. You weren't like, oh, let me just open my phone and I can go look at titties. And it doesn't make you feel like life is so repeatable. That's what's fucked up about the current way that social media is it almost showcases you how repeatable everything is, how everything is kind of the same but different. You go on your explore page, oh, there's some titties, oh, there's some buttholes, oh, there's some jokes, oh, there's some workout stuff, oh, there's some fight stuff, oh, there's some stuff I'm into, you know? Titty balls, buttholes, fights, working out, and jokes. That's the magic formula to make Evan. Extra on the butthole. What? Who said that? But it does make you wonder about which was a better life. Were those people, like, obviously, listen, anytime you can live with AC, it's a better life, right? And it's easy to think that we're so much more progressive and so much more ahead of the times than previous generations. But it's not because we're special. It's only because we had those previous generations. Like the previous generations weren't terrible people. They just didn't have the perspective that we have and all the information. I feel like a lot of people are decent people. But then if you, like people now think that if they were dropped during the times of, I don't know, pick a terrible time in history and you plop someone in there now, you'd be like, this is cruelty, this is inhumane, this is terrible, this needs to be stopped, this is not right. But it's because you have all that perspective of our current culture and all the, you know, even the internet of being able to see all these travesties. I don't know the difference between a tragedy and a travesty, but I feel like travesty was made up by a guy named Travis, and I just give him his due for coming up with his own word involving his name. But hey, baby, you can't say heaven without Evan. Hey, how you guys doing? I've never actually said that. But obviously, it's an easy reach when the theme of the podcast is 7 minutes in Evan. Stupid. Stairway to Evan. That was another one that was on the chopping block. But it's silly because now I get inquiries about guys wanting to fuck me for 7 minutes. Okay? And listen, I understand that the sign on the door might seem like that's what it's welcoming. It ain't happening, baby. This is just a clever podcast name. Not even that clever, okay? It's just, what was this going to be, the Evan Lopez show? That's pretty boring, right? 7 minutes in Evan. Anyway, we digress. I do mainly. Previous generations. We wouldn't be any better than those people. We're not any better than, like, that's the thing, is there's going to be in 40 years, 50 years, they're going to look at us and we're going to be terrible people. If we last that long. The fucking Pringles can might have already popped with this generation. I do my own sound effects now. Okay. I will not rely on a soundboard. Speaking of that, not soundboard, but previous generations. I watched the movie last night. If you guys don't know me by now, okay, but you guys know that on Sundays, your boy likes to chill out, try to watch a movie and just relax. Sometimes I'll put on an old movie. I decided, let me show my girl, Shallow Hal. I was like, hey, have you ever seen this movie? She's never seen it. Let's embark on it. I have been getting roasted all night and all morning for wasting her goddamn time with that movie. And you know what? It's warranted. The movie doesn't really hold up that well, okay? And it's just not that, to me, I'm sorry, I love Jack Black. It's not that good of a movie. There's some clever misdirections, it's got the formula, but it just never as a great movie. Because you know what else holds up and was from that same kind of, even before that? Happy Gilmore. I watched that earlier in the day, fell asleep watching it, but Happy Gilmore holds up. It's a well-written movie, and you guys can say what you want about Adam Sandler and Adam Sandler movies. There's people who think he just does these terrible movies. Adam Sandler always gives you a movie, a classic movie story, okay? It's better than a lot of the garbage that just comes through with romantic comedies and all this stuff. I feel like Adam Sandler actually gives you a world, a capsule of that movie. He takes an actual premise and turns it into a movie. It's not interchangeable story and blah, blah, blah. It's literally a tale. Like, you look at Happy Gilmore and it's like, this is the tale of a hockey player with an amazing swing that his grandma's house is getting taken by the bank. And we follow his journey of how he is going to get back her house and also find his talent. And then they just sprinkle in the normal shit. There's a love interest, there's a villain, but it's actually a story. And it's an intriguing one. It's like, oh, here's a hockey player that, has a powerful swing, and let's see him navigate this. And he puts in all these little great premises, great jokes and misdirections and things happening that kind of, it keeps the story going. But overall, that is a great movie. Just like, and it's an actual standalone story. It's kind of intriguing rather than you look at a lot of the fucking popcorn movies. You look at what fucking, what's an example? I don't even know an example. But just the way that like popcorn romance comedies went. You look at Click. Click was a great movie premise. You think about that. He has the remote. Was it Click or remote? Anyway, something to do with a remote. That's another great premise. A guy has this like magic remote. Oh, let's follow him on his journey. And then what's another Adam Sandler movie? That's The Wedding Singer. Here's a wedding singer. Blah, blah, blah. That one wasn't as good. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest. Listen, I know when I fucked up. But I feel like Adam Sandler doesn't get enough credit for how original his premises are. Billy Madison, great premise, premise. And they're standalone stories. Okay, they're standalone stories. It's great than a lot, more original than a lot of bullshit that comes out. Anyway, what was the point of all of that? Shallow Hal, talking about fucking things that don't hold up anymore and things that previous generations and the next generations are going to be like, what the fuck is this? Shallow Hal might be that. And I know the whole idea of the movie is to shine a light on someone being shallow. But then you're watching, like, the whole idea of it is just like, dude, there's one part in it. There's one part in it where if you don't know the premise of Shallow Hal, I'll save you a couple hours. Okay. It's this guy that's super shallow. His dad tells him never settle for less than perfect, have lots of women, blah, blah, blah. So he's put his, the important stuff on getting pussy is the gist of it. So he doesn't find, he's only looking at women from a superficial level, and it's just, it's not working out. So then Tony Robbins, shout out to Tony Robbins, a young Tony Robbins, just a handsome fellow with too big of teeth. Looks like fucking, I don't know, those looks like fucking square golf balls in his mouth is what his teeth look like. They're just extra, extra large, dentine ice gum. Anyway, don't worry about that. He basically gets hypnotized. Tony Robbins does his woo-saw shit, makes him see people for who they are rather than what they look like on the surface. So ugly people turn normal. Is there lights going on? And anyway, sorry, goldfish. But he basically starts seeing people for who they are, and he falls in love with this girl who's really overweight and she's obese. But he also, throughout the story, he's just like meeting up with all these ugly girls. He's having a blast with them. He thinks they're amazing. They're gorgeous. But then it's flip-flopping between showing you the ugly person and the pretty person. And I'm like, this is fucked up because they're actually casting someone who's obese or a really ugly person. And they're like, oh, you know who you're going to play? You're going to play the really ugly person in this. Okay. Like, that's what your role is. And I just thought that was fucked up. And some of the premises, I was like, this would not fly in this current state of movies. And it actually made me kind of uncomfortable. Like, it's almost a Sixth Sense twist where I'm like, oh shit, I'm the progressive person in this story. 20 years later from when the movie came out, I'm now at a point where I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. It's weird. And also a weird part of the movie, they go to this children's hospital where you have like 8, 9-year-olds, 6-year-olds, and they decide to play a game with these little kids where the nurse, the girl who volunteers at the hospital that takes Hal there, shows him the burn unit. And since he can only see the beauty in these kids, he sees just a bunch of handsome kids. And he's just like, oh, there's nothing wrong with all of you. And then the volunteer, the girl he's in love with, I forgot her name already, goldfish mentality. She's like, let's play a game. And he's like, cool. And he's like, let's play a game. You put on the lipstick and you kiss until you run out of lipstick, until the lipstick is all gone. Huh? What? Pedophile says, huh? And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And literally the next scene it cuts to is her and Hal walking out of there after just hanging out with a bunch of 6 and 7-year-olds. And they have kisses all over themselves. So I'm like, did they just cut out the scene where they were just playing spin the bottle with a bunch of 6 or 7-year-olds? Which is one of the lines Hal says when he says, let's play the kissing game. Hal goes, okay, I'll go get a bottle. Hey, Hal, had that in your back pocket, just ready to go? Which I just thought was crazy. And I'm like, dude, if people canceled Cuties on Netflix, this Shallow Hal, shit's not making it anywhere. But it did show me that it was a kind of crazy time capsule that I was not expecting. I didn't remember Shallow Hal like that. I remember it being a funny movie that just had some twists and was just like, it was passable. But I honestly, I couldn't, it wasn't that good of a movie to me now. I rarely am like, meh, this was a waste of time. Shallow Hal might have been a waste of time. Other news, ladies and gentlemen. Big stuff. We didn't get a chance to talk about this last week. I'm a little late to it, to be honest, but I still want to talk about it because it's prevalent and relevant. Whichever word is the best word to use there, I think I used that one only. Dave Chappelle, the living GOAT. You have to say that. If you're a comedian, you got to be like, Dave Chappelle's the GOAT. I want to be in one of those sets where, Dave Chappelle is known for going on stage and just talking for 4 hours, taking you on a journey. Dude, 4 hours is a bit much, but I feel like I would want to see it once where, you're really into it. He's not just doing jokes the whole time. There's a rhythm, there's ups and downs, and he's killing. And then he's going back to just talking. And apparently he'll just sit there with a cigarette for like 10, 15 minutes and just smoke and be staring at someone's purse, just be like, what kind of purse is that? And just nothing funny for a while. But apparently it's genius. But Dave Chappelle was on stage performing at the Hollywood Bowl, I believe it was. A young man thing, some kind of creature, runs out of the crowd and tries to tackle Dave Chappelle on stage. Dave Chappelle, not bad takedown defense, okay? With a little bit of training, he could have sprawled, spun around the back, either taken the back, got some hooks in, choked a person unconscious, or spun around the back, just postured up on them, bam, raining down punches, severing his competition unconscious. But it was great because he handled it great. The dude's an athlete, okay? He sprawls, he gets his hip out of the way, he doesn't get taken down, he's able to get back up. And then his crew comes out and they just stomp the fuck out of him. It was almost as if someone put fucking slippery sauce on the floor. The way that hit the first security guy, whoever was on his team, runs out and just whoop, 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 like a cartoon, falls over and then goes backstage and they start beating the shit out of this guy. Jamie Foxx shows up in a sheriff's hat at one point during the attack, which is dope, That's like the dopest thing you could want is all of a sudden you're being stomped, like someone's trying to kill you, and Jamie Foxx just materializes and is there to... That's what's dope about reaching Dave Chappelle's level, is you can just have fucking icons show up to defend your honor. But apparently the guy had a fake gun that had a knife inside of it. Hey, bud, I'm not like promoting this, and I'm not, but like, why wouldn't you just, like, what's the point of having the gun, the fake gun with a knife inside it? Why wouldn't you just, if you got a gun in there? Well, it's such a weird move, to have a fake gun. And then it's like, what, do you have a spoon inside the fake knife? Like, why don't you just keep having to go down, down, down to other shit that's useless compared to the thing you had before? It was pretending to be, Usually the Trojan horse is hiding something that's more advantageous to you, It's an opposite of a Trojan horse. It is a open goat. Stupid. But it's a weird thing. And it's also very weird that Chris Rock was there and happened to just come on stage to be like, was that Will Smith? Hey, Chris Rock, after all those weeks, that's all you had. That was the line. You've had all this time to be like, yo, because listen, Chris Rock is a man among men. Just the self-control, and it's incredible what he was able to do in that moment of getting slapped, in that moment, and just being like, oh, I could, and not saying anything, to refrain. But there's something in every guy. You get punked, you get in an argument, somebody says something funny and you have no comeback. I don't care who you are. At some point in the future, whether it's that night, the next day, you're thinking about it and you're going, fuck, if I could have just said this. If I could have just said that, You're thinking to your counter to that thing. But then you got to think, if you're Chris Rock, you're thinking about things like that and like, okay, well, I'm going to be in the public eye and someone's going to ask me about this. What can I say? It's the opportunity of a lifetime. And then just be like, was that Will Smith? Nah, it was funny, but I was just wanting more. Like, I wish the next level could have been like, was his wife bald? Was that Jada? You know, what'd you say about Jada? That would have been funny. Anyway, who am I giving bit ideas to Chris Rock in that moment? But let's talk about it. It's weird that this happened again. It's weird that this was able to happen again. And it's weird that it is happening again. The guy hit you with that fucking Dr. Seuss style setup right there. People rushing the stage is an odd thing. And it does enter the mind of every performer on stage. The one thing that I rely on to say things on stage and to make jokes is for people to understand that these are jokes, and also to acknowledge that this is sacred, what is happening. There is an understanding that there is a performer doing a job, and that you don't interrupt that. People heckle, and that's annoying. And sometimes you can handle it and make it funnier. But to actually be physically worried that someone might rush you for a joke is less than ideal. And that's coming from someone who can at least in some ability defend myself. But I never, ever, ever would want to. I never would want to even have to think that was a possibility, that someone might actually come on the stage and try to attack me. And it's not even because I'm thinking of just myself. I think about other performers. I think about, comedians teetering on the point of, should I say this joke? Should I not? Is this funny? Because part of the thing that makes comedy great is that it is understood that it's jokes and they can say it, and if we lose that, that's a weird fucking thing. I don't think, obviously, I'm just talking about, these are hypotheticals, but that would be a weird place to get. And this is why this almost can't even become like a normal thing. Like another person attacked the stage. Like, it can't get to that point. I don't think it will. And no pun intended. And I think these are just going to be random off the wall things that just happen. And it just so happened they happened pretty close to each other. I feel like the Will Smith one was worse because we don't know the motives of this second guy. We didn't, I don't think Dave Chappelle was saying anything crazy at that point. I don't know. And I don't know if that's why the person rushed the stage. I do know that Dave Chappelle has some controversial things. Not even controversial in reality, just controversial the way everybody took it. Like when they were saying that he was going against the trans community and was transphobic. But if you actually listen to his jokes, there was nothing in there that was transphobic. He was just talking about the community and actually talking about his friend who was trans. It's the most ridiculous shit ever. But it was ridiculous. And I don't know. I think Dave Chappelle handled it like a genius. Just like his ability to say one sentence and make it so funny because it's coming from him, and his inflection and the delivery of it and the simplicity of it, it makes it so fucking good. Like, there's shit that he can do, and he can say a line, and it's amazing and hilarious. But it's like, I don't know if that's the confidence, if that's the genius of like knowing words. That's such a stupid thing to say. And like the simplicity of it. That's what makes people think that anybody can be funny, is when you see someone like that perform and it sounds like they're just talking, like they're just saying words. And it's just like, oh, all he did was say this simple sentence. But it's like, you couldn't have said that sentence in that same way and delivered it in that way to where it had the same impact. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, I went to the Capitol recently. Shout out to the Texas Austin Capitol. The one thing I thought, besides storming it, this is so much wasted money. The amount of woodwork that these people have in there, okay? The amount of delicacy, the intricate designs in just this building alone blew my goddamn mind, okay? And I thought, this is where tax-paying money is going, okay? Now, keep in mind, I think that Texas fiscally has done pretty well. There's a lot of stuff that isn't crazy where you're like, oh my God, this is so much absorbent waste. I mean, I'm sure Austin has its fucking programs that are completely wasted, but it just blew my mind that they were like, listen, we have 1,000 of these desks. They're all made out of pure walnut, you know, like they're like, hey, every desk you see here came from one giant walnut tree. We whittled it with a spoon. And they're like, this was made in the 1800s, early 1800s. Who made this? Okay. This was made in good faith. Okay. You paid people to make this. It was crazy though. We did kind of sneak into one level of the Capitol that was off limits. And I'll be honest with you guys, there was one room that it had a lot of pictures of old people. And then in the center of it, it had a goddamn pyramid of little baby pictures. And I'll be honest, it didn't feel right. Why do you have a bunch of little pictures of little kids? And why were they forming a pyramid? Okay, I get it. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I get it. Everybody was worried about storming that other Capitol. We need answers at this Austin Capitol, okay? We just got a bunch of baby pictures in there, and I'm not okay with it. I don't want to know what these little kids had to do to make their pictures on the wall, okay? I don't even want to know, okay? Yeah, it was a dope place. Listen, it's getting a little too hot in Texas right now, okay? We're starting to hit triple digits, we're hitting the hundreds. And your boy is just trying to figure it out. It's getting a little warm out here. The bugs are real. I'm trying to figure it out. I've been out here fist fighting wasps for a minute now. You know that? Now, fighting the June bugs. Now I'm fighting all the bugs, okay? It's a goddamn bug's life out here, all right? And I just need you guys to know that. No regrets, though. No regrets. Especially coming from California. It kind of blows my mind when I talk to people in California. That it blows my mind just everything that's happening in California. I'm not a conspiracy theorist yet. I feel like the pandemic made everybody kind of push towards being a conspiracy theorist. It kind of just brought more stuff to the light of like, okay, there's a lot more manipulation going on. But I look at things that are happening and laws and all the stuff that's just being pushed. And it's weird. It's very weird. And there's a lot of people, like I would really love to see real poll numbers that show that everybody supports this all the same. I feel like it's too easy to be manipulated. I feel like the media, remember when Trump, he who must not be named, and Hillary were in the race and everybody, like there's all the polls were saying that Hillary Clinton was leaps and bounds ahead. There were some that were like, she has 87% of the polls to his 13%. Like crazy, astronomical numbers in the other direction. And that so much of that was trying to fuel people mentally through the media that she was the right choice. That if everybody thinks this, and I mean, we've talked about that scientific study ad nauseum about how if people know other people's answers, they'll change theirs to just be part of the crowd, to not fuck up, like, oh, I'm just going to go with what everybody else says. We've talked about that before. There's so much of trying to sway people by showing them like, hey, everybody else feels this way. It's the same tactic. Like when people come to your door, they're like, hey, all your neighbors are getting this done. This is what we offer, blah, blah, blah. I've had so many goddamn bug services and places. And I'm like, no, I'm out here fighting for my fucking life against these goddamn crickets. Actually, the crickets are cool. Crickets can stay. Okay, I let crickets live around here. All right, this is a cricket sanctuary. And the June bugs. June bugs are cool with me. All right. But if you're a goddamn spider, if you're a waspus, okay, gotta go. If you're a fly, you get inside. Show's over, baby. Show's over. I'm gonna hit you with that swatter unless fucking Beowulf gets to you first, and she be putting numbers on the board. Okay, the dog can jump anyway. I feel like that could be what's happening in California. There's so much. I hate using this word because it sounds conspiracy, like mass psychosis, where everybody starts believing what they're seeing and they're constantly reiterating like, oh, this is what's good for your kids. This is what blah, blah, blah. And so much weird shit is happening in California. Okay. And so much of it makes me, I wonder, I'm not someone who's like, oh, the fucking votes are being manipulated. But all I would love is to really find out, is this what everybody voted for? Like all the things that are getting passed and the people who are in control. I'm like, you guys are all good with this? Because that's fine if you are. If that's what you all voted for and you want to stay like that, I mean, I guess that's your right. But that's why people are also leaving the state. It's because the laws are getting weird. And maybe things will balance out in the sense of, the people who don't want to live like that are leaving. And the state will suffer because of it, and they'll have no choice but to kind of find a balance and come back to the center, because once businesses leave and everything, it's just going to like deteriorate. And it sucks because California is such a cool place. But I'm just like, I don't believe that everybody feels this way. And I could be wrong, but we'll never have the right answers. Because it's just something you can't track, at least right now. There's no like unbiased way of checking polls and finding out what people really want. It's so fucked up that you just get volunteers to work at these like ballot places, that these aren't like, we don't have a better system for doing this other than you go there and you poke your little holes or fill out your little circle. And then some volunteer is the one who takes it and they tally it up and submit it. Like what? There's no room for error. There's no better way to do this so that it can't be fucked with. And this is why I think Elon Musk buying Twitter is a step in the right direction. We're not there yet, of getting an actual balanced world that we can actually control in a sense, like fair voting, fair speech, and watering down the ability to control a narrative. That's all I hope for with the future. Because I feel like at least old media and news and everything like that, it's just, it gives you one side and it pushes an agenda based on ads and sponsorships and donations. And when you find out it's all income driven, you're just like, oh, okay, this is completely manipulated. And I think it's bad for the future. I think it's short-sighted and only good for these people's pockets. And I'm just trying to live in a free world, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Just trying to live in a free world. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 7 Minutes Inside Evan's Conspiracy Bunker. Okay? Because that's what it feels like. Whenever you start using the words like narrative, psychosis, and voting, whew, got yourself put on a list, baby. Got yourself put on a list. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this episode. Okay? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, whatever you cool cats and kittens do. And we'll be back. All right? And remember, no matter what, I still love you.